Hello, good people of YouTube, Mountbatten here, and today, in continuing our trend this week of taking a look back at some older ships in the game, today we're taking a look at what is, I wouldn't say a special ship to me, but one that definitely gave us a very memorable time, shall we say, here on the channel. That is, of course, the Tier 10 special British battleship, the Thunderer. So the Thunderer was released quite some time ago as a coal ship. She is essentially the old 457mm Conqueror, but they tweaked her in a couple of places. If you don't remember, when the Conqueror and the British battleships first came out way back, when I first started this channel, there were two gun options on Conqueror. You could take the 12 16-inch guns, or you could take 8 18-inch guns, the 457mm guns that the Thunderer has. However, the Thunderer guns, well, the Conqueror guns, were nowhere near as good as the Thunderer guns. They had a similar performance in terms of the fire chance and such, but their accuracy was simply not the accuracy of the Thunderer, which is quite good. I remember using 18-inch Conqueror as kind of a point-blank ship, because at that range you really can't miss. And this is back when the Conqueror had the Conqueror heel, with the Citadel of the Conqueror being below the waterline, so the Conqueror was insanely tanky back in the day. Now, that's of course changed quite a bit. So the Thunderer, she has, well, pretty much the same armor layout as the Conqueror. 32mm bow and stern with a 406mm belt, and her Citadel is above the waterline, just like the Conqueror. Now, the hit pool is pretty similar to Conqueror too, 82,900 hit points there on the Thunderer, which is the same as the Conqueror. Temporary protection 28% as well. The guns are, of course, the main difference. So right now, there, of course, have been quite a few changes to Thunderer, and we'll get talking about that in a moment. But right now, with the build I have on my Thunder, I have a 22.9 second reload time on these 8 18-inch guns. They rotate in 33.1 seconds, and at a range of 21.5 kilometers, they have a 213-meter maximum dispersion, which is quite good. The HE shells do an alpha of 8,200 damage, and they have a 65% chance of starting a fire. That's really good. As good as the HE is, the AP is even better. She does 14,900 maximum AP shell damage. AP comes out the tubes at 762 meters a second. HE comes out at 757 meters a second. So yeah, the guns are definitely the main feature of this ship. As you can see in the background footage, they are way, way, way accurate enough for a ship with a 22.9 second reload time. They are frighteningly consistent as well. Now, every now and then you do get a bit of a wonky salvo, but that is definitely the exception. The norm is pretty darn consistent dispersion from the ship, especially with the 22 second reload time. She has 81 AA. Her A is a little bit different than the Conqueror. It's a little bit less, but it's still pretty good, and the ship does get DFAA. Maneuverability, this ship has a top speed of 31 knots with a speed flag, turning circle radius at A of 940 meters, and a rudder shift time of 10.4 seconds. That is base. That is without me putting a single rudder module on this ship. 10.4 second rudder shift time on a ship this big. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Speaking of crazy, your concealment is 12.3 kilometers, so this Tier 10 battleship has a smaller concealment range than, well, a lot of Tier 10 cruisers right now. So, yeah, it's a little silly there. For her consumables, she does get a heal in DFAA. Now, it is not the Conqueror's heal, but it is still an improved heal. She gets 596 hit points back per second, and it is active for 30.8 seconds. It's pretty much a roided up Warspite heal. That's the best way I can describe it to you. So, this ship, back in the day, me and this ship have a pretty fun history. I didn't get this ship for a while because new coal ships kept coming out, and I kept wanting to get the newest coal ship to review, obviously running a YouTube channel. It takes quite some time to get coal, even for a player that plays as much as I do. So I eventually got around to getting the Thunderer. In my very first match in it, I wanted to see just how good the HE was on this ship. Now, keep in mind, I play a lot of German battleships, so needless to say, when the ship was out and available, German battleships are their primary target. They're big, they have massive superstructures, and it always felt like every salvo from a Thunder was setting me on fire. So take Thunder out for the first time, and I do 279,000 damage just by spamming HE in this ship in my very first match in it. Now, I'm a pretty decent battleship player, but even, in a first match in a ship, you're still getting used to the way the ship feels and all this, and unless it's a direct copy-paste of another ship, you probably won't do that fantastically well. And yes, it is 18-inch Conqueror. 18-inch Conqueror, the guns were nowhere near as accurate as this thing's guns are. So I was like, whoa, this is a little nutty. And basically, my worst fears were confirmed, and the ship was pretty busted. And what was really interesting is I released that video, and up until recent events, shall we say, that video had a negative like to dislike ratio for quite some time. And you can still go to that video today. I'll link it in the description down below and read all the comments of all the people trying to justify that this ship is not OP, even though I just sat there and spammed HE for 279,000 damage, and I think I said like freaking 20-something fires in it too. It was pretty freaking nutty, and that's just spamming HE, not touching the AP, which is really funny because people in the comment section were screaming at me saying, "Oh, you're just spamming HE, or you should be using the AP. You would have done a lot better." I'm like, "Oh, okay, so the ship I just did 280,000 damage in by simply spamming HE. You're telling me if I would have used the AP, the ship would have performed even better. So you're telling me the HE is that good where I can just sit there and spam it all game, but then I can switch over to AP and I probably would have gotten well over 350,000 damage." Why does a ship have two ammo types that are that good? And yeah, it is British BBAP. Like you guys just saw, it has 8,900 maximum HE alpha. Now, granted, that is if you get a Citadel hit, but you have 8 of these guns firing at a target, and if you're firing at another battleship in this thing, you will easily do like 10k alpha and then set a fire or two, probably. Now, the match we're watching right now is actually a pretty low fire count for me in the Thunderer. I haven't played the Thunderer a lot recently. They play a bit after they changed her. And yes, they did change her, finally, after the ship was out for over 2 years, which is pretty messed up in my opinion. The ship was busted upon release, but the ship was so broken from the get-go, in my opinion, this should have been caught in testing, like with the FDR. A ship with 8 18-inch guns that are crazily accurate, with a 24-kilometer base range when you take the reload module on them, with a 65% chance of starting a fire, where you can easily do 10k HE alpha to pretty much anything and set a couple of fires, but then you also have God tier AP on top of that too. That should have raised some red flags. That's not even talking about the hull of the ship. The hull of the ship is pretty decent. It's Conqueror's hull. It's 32mm bow and stern. Its Citadel is above the waterline, but it's well armored enough. It's a 406mm belt. That's a pretty darn thick belt. So if you angle enough in this ship, you will easily bounce pretty much whatever shot at you, unless it's like, Shikishima or Yami, something like that. And then you gave it a 10.6 second rudder shift time. Now, for those who don't know, what they essentially did was they gave Thunder Conqueror's baked-in legendary module, which gives it that 10-second rudder shift time. So you can build into that rudder shift time, and you can have a sub 10-second rudder shift time on a tier 10 battleship that is this big, meaning that even if the armor was thin, you could easily maneuver to where the shells just bounce off of your belt. And like I said, your belt is not thin. It's a 406mm belt. Unless you're broadside, you're going to bounce. And then on top of that, too, it has the Warspite heal. Well, the improved Warspite heal is what I like to call it, where it can still recover a pretty darn good chunk of its health. So it's got a whole lot going for it. Now, how did they decide to nerf this ship? Well, essentially, they did what I and many other players said they should have done. They forced you to choose between the reload or the range module. So now this ship has a 21-kilometer base range with the reload module. So if you want that 22-second reload time on these 18-inch guns, you have to settle with a 21.5-kilometer range. So that means you obviously have to play in a little bit closer than you could beforehand. which isn't necessarily hard for the Thunderer because, one, like I said already, she has great maneuverability. Two, its concealment range. It's got that 12.3 kilometer concealment range if you take the module and the commander skill on her. So she's perfectly capable of fighting well within 21 kilometers. And you can sit angled and easily bounce the shells off of your main belt. Now, sure, you might be a bit more prone to cruiser damage, but hey, 22-second reload on these guns, this ship does not struggle to do damage with this build on it. The match you're watching right now is actually a pretty low damage match, but toward the end of this match, you get to see the real strength of the Thunder in that it doesn't matter what you do to this ship, you're still going to take damage from it. Toward the end, and I'm not sure if it's playing now or if it's played already when I go on to the next clip, but you can see I'm pushing a Monty and a Minnesota. These guys are both 16-inch battleships, so I really don't care about the main battery guns at all. And both of them try to angle to me. They show me broadside sometimes. When they show me broadside, I load AP and blast their broadside. You angle to me, oh great, I don't care. Load this god tier HE and just start farming them down quite easily. So yeah, and again, that's just the guns. The hull is pretty darn good too. Now, of course, it's not the tankiest ship in the world, and it doesn't have the most HP in the world, only having 82,000 hit points at tier 10. It is one of the lowest HP battleships at tier 10, of course, but you still get that improved heal to back it up. So it's not like it's the Slava over here with a 25mm bow that can be overmatched by every single battleship at tier 10. It still has a 32mm bow. So that's the only real changes that they did to it, and that's really all it needed to kind of check itself to where it's not this completely just god tier ship that you can sit back at 24 kilometers and burn the world. And still, you can get the main gun still out to 24 kilometers if you take the range module. You just have to deal with a 26-second reload time instead of a 22-second reload time, which is still a great reload time for an 18-inch gun battleship, especially with 18-inch guns that are as accurate as the Thunderers and has god tier HE and AP that don't really care too much about your ship's armor. I mean, it really is simple as, does it look like I can pin the target? No, load HE. Does it look like I can blap them? Yes, load AP. So it's still a very strong ship in my opinion, but the changes to it were very much needed, as much as it does suck to have these special ships get nerfed after they get released. But this, in my opinion, is completely on Wargaming for not catching this beforehand. Like, this ship was blatantly busted out the gate, and they just let it go for whatever reason, and then 2 years down the road, they decided to nerf it. So, going back to the video I put out on Thunderer when I first got it, when I said it was busted, like I said, that video was not very well received. People were, like, foaming in the mouth in the comment section. There's some very interesting conversations going on some forums to that video, but then Deadeye comes out, and now suddenly Thunder is like the worst thing to ever happen to the game. People are complaining about it, and left, right, and center. And then they remove it from the store, and then they nerf it. So a bunch of people, upon hearing the news that it was being removed, rightfully grinded up to get such a crazy ship, and then Wargaming nerfed it. Now, it is coal, and you can't exactly, waste money getting coal, but a lot of people did waste time and effort to get that coal to get the ship, and then, again, they nerfed it 2 years after the ship had been released, which, there's no way the ship should have been allowed to go on for that long in this state of the game. But still today, if you still have a Thunderer, it's still a very strong ship and does very well in the current meta, especially at tier 10. And sure, if you're having a bad time at 21 kilometers and trying to get the 22-second reload time on the guns, just switch over to the range module and just burn the world down from 24 kilometers away, because again, the ship has absolutely no trouble doing damage, getting kills in today's game. But it's an interesting ship that I want to take a look back at for today's video. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. For you guys that have Thunderer, you still enjoying her? You have any issues doing damage still? I certainly am not. I mean, it's still just the easiest thing in the world to absolutely farm damage, and ship's a pretty good credit farmer. It's not a premium ship, so it doesn't get that boost, but just the amount of damage you can do with this freaking thing is absolutely off the charts if you know how to really farm. But anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Friday. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 30,000 subs, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. We will be live streaming right here on the channel tonight from 5 p.m. U.S. Central Time to 8 p.m. U.S. Central Time. So come out here and check out the live stream tonight. Hope you all have a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.